Okay, we'll turn it over to Chair Lear for law and licensing report.
And there I am.
And there you are.
So we had a discussion on beginning with 11.2, and this had to do with the Utah State University authorizer transfer process. Recall that, and just a little background might be appropriate, a very little, but as you recall, the committee and then the board approved Utah State University's authorizing process for charter schools, as USU is about ready to become a charter authorizer. And the opportunities the board has in this process is to approve that authorizing process, and then also to approve a transfer process for schools, for charters that want to transfer from a different authorizer to Utah State University. And we had a great discussion several times with Utah State University, who's given a lot of thought to this. And we asked them to come back several times, or a couple of times, and also provided a lot of feedback from the USB staff. And USU has been very patient and cooperative. And then some of the committee members, I think, have been pretty conscientious also, because this is the board's opportunity to make sure this is a rigorous and meaningful process. So that's the background. And so let me present the motion from the committee, and then there was also a discussion about, I'm trying to say this well, but succinctly, that Utah State had a great deal of information and a great depth of information about their academic plans, but didn't have as much information as we felt they should about their the stability of the financial stability of the schools and the business operations side. So we asked them to provide some more information on that. And again, they were very receptive to feedback from USBE staff and worked well with Scott Jones, who isn't here, to get some compliments for staying persistent on that. So with all of that background, now the motion for the board from the committee is that the committee moves that the board approve Utah State University's process to review and approve a request from a school to change authorizers.
So the motion before the board is that the committee moves that the board approve Utah State University's process to review and approve a request from a school to change authorizers. Any discussion to that motion? Vice Chair Davis.
Yes, I just want to speak to the motion and really to echo what Chair Lear said, and mostly really to thank Utah State University. You know, I will say this has been through a variety of rounds and several revisions, and you have been nothing but responsive and great. So thank you. We look forward to working with you, and we hope this will be a really wonderful partnership moving forward.
Thank you, Vice Chair Davis. Chair Lear.
And maybe Kristen wants to speak first, and then I'll, because I've got another substitute motion.
Okay, Board Member Norton.
I just wanted to make a quick comment that I was really thrilled by listening to this entire back and forth between Utah State and our committee. I thought that the depth of knowledge in the questioning was just phenomenal, and I thought that the intent shown by Utah State University was very admirable. And I was so pleased. I know that our committee tends to be, you know, our entire board tends to be a little bit education heavy. And I was, you know, as a finance girl, to hear that the business part of this education was such an important part made me happy. I think that we have some fabulous charters in this state, and sometimes the fall is in the financial side of things. And so I was so happy to hear for the students' sake that we're looking after that as well. So just congratulations to the committee for a great job.
Thank you, Board Member Norton. Carol, I wanted to ask you a question on exactly what this means, that we've approved a process for Utah State University to review and approve if a school wants to change its authorizers. Have we approved anyone else if they want to just find a school and charter it?
I'm not completely sure I understand your question. Let me try, and then I welcome any help that Deputy Superintendent Stallings adds. There is a process to approve a charter school that was approved earlier from Utah State, with Utah State. And now this is, I think, what you just described. Utah State either seeks out a school that is chartered by one of the other authorizers, or existing charter school comes to Utah State and would like to transfer from the previous authorizer to Utah State.
Yes,
So
Carol, that's exactly what I was talking about. So do they have a school already in mind that they're going to be doing?
I think so. Where that was a little obscure, I think they've had some queries from some schools. It was my sense of it, but because the process was not in place, and I don't know if they're purposely being confidential, or we didn't. I think we did ask them point blank, and I think that there was the response that yes, one school is asking, but I think they're looking for what the process will look like before both partners decide if they want to hook up, so to speak.
Okay, thank you, Chair Lear. Now, do you have an amendment to the motion?
I do. I'd like to make a substitute motion that the board approves USU's process to review and approve a request. I can't read my own writing. A request.
It's on the screen.
I know. For a request from a school to change authorizers dated May 5th, 2021. And the reason for this change is because it's change. Oh, that's
Hold
the
on
motion.
a second. Okay, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you for stopping me. The reason for this change with adding the date is because this reflects the feedback that was provided to Utah State University that USU is receptive to, especially from Scott Jones and others, more on, as Member Norton was saying, more on the finance side, where it was the committee members felt like they wanted to impress upon USU that running a school is more than having an excellent plan for academics. And so there was some additions that USU made to its process.
So the amendment to the motion is that the board approve Utah State University's process to review and approve a request from a school to change authorizers dated May 5th, 2021. Any discussion to that amendment? Okay, please vote on that amendment. I see the voting is unanimous. Okay, so that is the amendment to the motion. Now, to the motion that the board, to the amended motion, that the board approve Utah State University's process to review and approve a request from a school to change authorizers dated May 5th, 2021. Please vote. I see that the voting is unanimous. Board Member Norton, I think you did your hand, but I think that's okay. I could see it. Okay, all right. Chair Lear, going on.
Moving to item 11.4, R277-317, incentives for national board certification, added an amendment. The committee moves that the board approve R277-317 incentives for national board certification, draft 1 on second and final reading.
Motion before the board is the committee moves that the board approve R 277317 incentives for national board certification, draft 1 on second and final reading. Any discussion to that motion? Board Member Earl.
I just have a general question. How close do the national board certifications actually align with what we require in the state of Utah? Just in general, I'm just wondering, do they even align, or is this a different whole philosophical viewpoint?
Angie, would that be you or someone in your staff? Oh, Dr. Height, please.
Hi, Malia Height, Educator Licensing Coordinator. The requirements for the National Board Certification are far greater than the minimum standard for a professional educator license in the state of Utah. It requires pretty in-depth content and data analysis around your educational practices. And so it really is a much higher standard than a first-time issuance of a professional educator license.
Thank you. Jenny, do you have a follow-up?
I'm not sure. I kind of looked over some of their information and such. I was just wondering how closely we align those and how far back. Well, I don't know if you know this, Malia, but I wondered how long we've been doing this. Is this just, I know we've been doing it for a number of years, but I'm just curious the history on that. And maybe Superintendent Dixon can give us a.
So Board Member Earl, for clarity on your question, how long the state of Utah has been doing some sort of reward, or how long national board certification?
National board certification, thank you.
Okay, so Dr. Dixon?
Thank you, Vice Chair Belknap, and I am the historian, so I think I can't answer that. I actually was working in Granite when the very first teacher, Ann Cook, I still remember her name. She was a great art teacher, pottery teacher at Hunter High, earned the national board certification. So she was one of the first in Utah, and that's probably been a couple of decades ago. But the program's been around quite a while. The content, I think back to your question of Dr. Height around, how does it align? First, it's a self-selection process. They select into this process, and a lot of it is about reflection of their own work. So, for example, a standard might be engaging in student feedback about your instruction. So how do they use feedback either from peers or students to improve their instruction? And so they would maybe film themselves or write some reflective essays and kind of comb through all of that to improve practice. So it's based on standards that way, not so much that there's a content that they're tested on or that they have to follow through on. So it's more on the pedagogical side. I was looking at the website also today just to see how things have changed over time. So, they're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. And it's just all about, they do have a board that develops what the teaching standards look like that they strive to meet. So I just put that out there because they do have a board that kind of oversees some of that rubric and the standards that they work towards. But it's kind of a process of self-reflection.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. Board Member Earl?
Thank you. Actually, I had one more. Hang on. I had one of those. I don't know. Do you ever do that?
Oh, no, it makes you mad when you don't write them down.
I know.
You want to come back? You want to hold there?
Yeah, you better.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Klein?
Yes, I just had some concerns as well. I was on their website too, and going through, just their about statement. It says the National Board is an anti-racist and inclusive organization. And then you can go through a lot of the articles on their page, and there's just example after example of, promoting Black Lives Matter and one quote was, "Don't refer to your students as boys and girls or other similar binaries. Use your own curriculum and lesson plans to affirm our students and allow students to break from the traditional binary approach to comprehending gender." I mean, there's just so many things that I saw that were really concerning to me. And I thought, is this what we're sending our teachers to be trained in?
So did you have a question, Board Member Klein, or just?
I don't know if there's any, it's probably just more of a statement unless
Okay.
there's somebody that has a response to that.
I'm not sure that our people would have a response to that, that was on there unless they want to. Okay, Dr. Dixon?
I think Dr. Height had her hand raised and may be able to
Well,
answer
she's had
that.
it up. She hasn't taken it down. So,
Okay. Well, I think it's a fair question to ask about the training. I kind of combed through the website today as well, and I think to Board Member Klein's question, I think you're starting to see a lot of that emerge on a lot of websites. So I am unaware of specific training that they provide in those areas, but you'd have to ask somebody who just completed their national board. And I know we had a list of that today. So I'm happy to go back to the list that we honored today and see if they had any specific training in those areas. I'm not aware of it because again, it's kind of this self-reflective process, but Dr. Height, I don't know if you have any additional information, but I'm happy to dig into that a little further.
Yeah. I noticed that, this is part of our state statute. It mentions National Board Certified in the statute. And that, I guess that's why it's in our rule. And I'm just wondering if there should be, if we should even be naming a specific entity in statute that we promote, or if it should be more of just an option, or that the state even pays for this. I mean, that's the statute says that our state pays for teachers to go and be trained. And so I'm just wondering, it's one thing if it's an optional somewhere that they can go to get this certification, but I just worried that we're paying with taxpayer dollars for teachers to be trained in the very thing that is causing so many parents to be so upset.
thank you, Board Member Klein.
Would you like me
Dr.
to respond to the question of Vice Chair Belknap?
Yeah, I was going to Dr. Thronson, but I'll go to Dr. Dixon.
Oh, she'll probably do a much better job than I will, but just because I have the history that, it's truly there's equity and diversity in a standard, but there isn't training. The National Board Certification is not a training organization. So they have the standards, you pay to take this certification, but it's not a training. Again, it's self-reflective practice that you kind of send in. So we probably should have done a better job of just getting into the details of how that happens today. Based on time, we didn't get into the details, but it's not, I hear what you're saying, but it's not an organization that does training. So I don't know if Dr. Height can add to that or Dr. Thronson, but that's been my experience with it over the past several decades.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. I'm going to go to Board Member Hart.
I just want to clarify because I caught something there. We don't send teachers to training for national board certification. It's something that educators can pursue on their own. It's not a training organization. It's a process that they willingly go through. They choose to participate in order to be a better teacher, however, whatever that means to them. So this isn't a training thing. We don't send them anywhere. They do it on their own time.
Thank you, Board Member Hart. Board Member Earl?
Yeah, and I guess that maybe this plays into what we've been talking about right here. Are there other organizations that do allow similar reflection to take place? Or is this just, I don't know. Are there other organizations, or is this primarily the one that we nationally recognize?
Okay, Dr. Thronson, I think was first, and then Dr. Height.
Yeah, so this is the organization that does national board certification. They're the recognized representative of this kind of high quality reflective teaching practice. There is not another organization as the national board certification type experience. And they're like superintendent shared, there's not training. It is a reflective process of you hear the standards. We do have other national board certified teachers that will provide other teachers with support as they're trying to go through, like, how do you do your narrative for your transcript and those kinds of things in terms of logistics, but there's no actual training of any sort. It's what the teacher brings to the reflective process.
Thank you, Dr. Thronson. Dr. Height?
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is that the reflection and practices that educators do as part of the national board certification process is parallels what we are in Utah now requiring for our professional licensures within our pedagogical performance assessment, but it's at a deeper level. So it really does align with what the board has already outlined for our educators in Utah, but it is at a deeper and more rigorous standard.
Thank you, Dr. Height. Board Member Straight, you've come in too late. I'm just kidding. Board Member Straight.
Oh, I'd be glad. Anyway, you know, I think sometimes things look different from the inside out than from the outside in. And I can see if you're looking at that website from the outside, that might be some concerns. But having known teachers who have accomplished this national board certification, it is very intense. It takes dedication, it takes discipline. Reflection on practice is what really makes a teacher reach for that next level on meeting the needs of students. So I absolutely admire those who do this, and we need more of it. And so I definitely am in favor of this.
Thank you, Board Member Straight. So the motion on the table is that the committee moves that the board approve R277317 Incentives for National Board Certification, Draft 1 on second and final reading. Please vote. I see that the voting is complete with one no vote by Board Member Klein. Go ahead, Chair
Okay,
Lear.
Moving to the next item on the agenda, 11.5. This is another rule reflective of a new bill that passed last session, R277-320, Grow Your Own Teacher and School Counselor Pipeline Program. The staff discussed this. The committee had a good discussion. There were a few amendments in committee. The committee now moves that the board approve R277-320, Grow Your Own Teacher and School Counselor Pipeline Program, Draft 4 on second and final reading.
The motion before the board is that the committee moves that the board approve R277-320, Grow Your Own Teacher and School Counselor Pipeline Program, Draft 4 on second and final reading. Any discussion to that motion? Board Member Hart.
Yes, why were ARL students, teachers excluded from this program?
Board Member Lear, do you want to take that or someone else?
I don't. Okay.
Malia.
Legislation. So
Malia, do you have that answer?
Yes.
Lisa McLaughlin's here. She's running this program with Kim Herrera. She'd probably be best to respond to that question.
Who did Jennifer say?
Lisa McLaughlin.
Okay.
She's right beneath you on our screens.
Lisa, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Lisa McLaughlin. I'm the alternative preparation program specialist in the licensing department at USBE. And the bill is very specific in defining candidates that qualify for this program. And for the teacher candidates, they are looking specifically for paraprofessionals that are employed in a paraprofessional or teacher assistant type position. Usually candidates going through the ARL program are already hired as teachers of record. And so this specifically targets candidates that have not been hired as teachers yet.
Yes, thank you. And,
Thank you.
Actually, Board Member Hart, I had the same question about the school counselor piece.
I,
So,
I had the situation come up with that exact situation where they were wanting to switch over to counseling. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Hanson?
Just a question, looking at line 50 through 53, it looks like on the administration, there's some dates in the rule. One of them is April 20th, 2021 for the first cohort of applicants to have applications posted and information about the grant program on the board website. Are we okay? And then it looks like the third Monday in May is when things should be submitted. Are we okay to roll this out with those dates, or do we need to look at that?
Dr. Thronson?
Yes, so staff asked me if it was okay for us to release the application, and for the urgency that the LEAs are feeling on this, we went ahead, but it is intended that if you have any changes to the application or the rule, that we would then make an amendment to the application, given we still have time to do so. So we've let the LEAs know that is a possibility, but their urgency of knowing if this was going to go for them and getting their educators lined up and their counselors kind of was a big charge, and we felt like we could meet their needs while meeting your expectations by being, ready to amend those applications based on any changes to the rule. So we're ready if there are any amendments to the rule to make those changes.
Thank you. Board Member Hanson? You okay there?
Well, I appreciate the explanation. That's a little unorthodox, but I guess we're caught in the timing crunch right now, and so we're doing what we can. So thank you.
So Jennifer, will you stay on for just a minute, because I have another question. And when you're writing this, is this money a continuation funded, or is it a one-time fund?
It is meant to be a cycle. So getting those group of participants through what they would do it's a 2-year plan, I believe. Lisa, nod your head wrong or right if I'm wrong.
I'm talking about the funding that's coming for this.
The funding is one time. So we have
Okay.
$9.2 million. Yeah.
Then that answers my question.
Okay.
Board Member Hanson, do you have another question? Okay. I'm thinking no.
No, just how do I get my hand to go down?
Oh, I don't know. If you tell me your hand's down, I can work with that. Okay, so the motion before the board, hold on, for Pete's sake. I've got to decline something here. Sorry. The motion before the board is the committee moves that the board approve R277320, Grow Your Own Teacher and School Counselor Pipeline Program, Draft 4 on second and final reading. Please vote. The voting is unanimous. Thank you very much. Chair Lear.
The next item is 11.6, R277-923, American Indian and Alaskan Native Education State Plan Programs. It's a continuation only. So that the motion from a program that was, I think, set up a year or two ago based on legislation. The committee moves that the board continue R277-923, American Indian and Alaskan Native Education State Plan Programs on second and final reading.
The motion before the board is the committee moves that the board continue R277-923, American Indian and Alaskan Native Education State Plan Programs on second and final reading. Any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, please vote. Oh, there it is. Okay, that voting is unanimous. Thank you. Chair Lear?
We had one other item we didn't get to on our agenda that will be on tomorrow's agenda, and so that completes our report. Thank you.
Thank you so much.